But also in politics, it's always a story behind it. That's why I mentioned this term values right from the beginning. Or talking about laws, even though they might sound super dry, it's about stories and values.
So tell us a story, Maren, a story of how humanity navigates the next few decades and makes it through the risks that we all see. Tell us a story.
Well, the story in my head, and that's a pretty crazy one, the head and the story, of course, is it kind of maybe goes like this. I haven't prepared this, so it's going to be very raw. I get up every morning in order to make that story become a bit more alive. And the story is going to involve a lot more pain for now, because people unfortunately sometimes only learn by disaster. You have to touch the heart of or whatever it is you have to touch in order to really feel it. That's where it comes down to the feelings. In order to really acknowledge and realize with your whole body, as sometimes people say, right? I felt it in my whole body. Yeah, that's what we need in order to change, because whatever changed people's life and whatever will change people's life in the future is because they felt something, not because they heard something or read something. It's always what we feel. So the story will involve more pain because there will be more people needed who felt that it's really necessary to change the incentives right now. But, and that's where I try to focus on, and as I said, it's often painful, but it's also often joyful. There is already a certain number of people who really feel it and who are kind of understood with their whole body that we really have to change almost everything if we want to have a future on this planet. And one proof for this, my story, that that's the case is the backlash we observe globally right now from the elite. Right, from the people who made those wrong incentives and their ancestors who made those wrong incentives, because they were really, really nervous, and that makes them really angry, and that makes them fight because they want to defend their belief system. Coming back to values, and that makes me hopeful, and that makes me hopeful that we are not going to destroy on the individual level more and more of our personal lives by getting addicted to the things we talked about earlier, the testosterone kicks, the success stories that we tell each other that mean success, but they actually don't, because they don't make us happy or content or healthy, and that it's worthwhile to keep, and I'm very consciously using that word now, fighting, because it is also a fight, keep fighting for that success story of humanity. If I wouldn't be convinced about it, I wouldn't be able to get up in the morning. Why would I?
No, I feel the same way. The day that I'm no longer convinced that there is that chance, I won't be doing this work. I'll be planting trees.
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time, but I do have so many more questions, so I will formally in a social contract, on-camera sort of way, invite you to come back for another episode in the future, maybe.
I'd love to do that.
Maybe as a round table with some others. One more question, though, before I get to the closing questions. Is a future of constructive journalism and positive journalism the way that you described, is that a global thing, or can it happen nationally and regionally? And I ask that because there's been a lot of changes in my country in the last few months. And how is Europe responding, or Asia, or like, please give me your opinion there.
Yeah, that's a really interesting, another big one, of course, because change, if what I said earlier is still resonating with you and the people who are listening, always starts with the individual, right? That means if a certain amount of people or group, as I said earlier, comes together, that's the most powerful thing that can happen. So that's what we see, for example, where is the energy transition or the food transition or the media transition, and you can put basically every noun now in front of the word transition happening. It's on the kind of local level. And that's what a lot of organizations, like Makita organizations, like for example, organizations that group cities together, like the C40, for example, like a group of cities that decided we really want to be sustainable. We want to change how people move inside us, how people go from A to B, how we eat, how we live, how we work, and so on. Because it's not going to be on the state level. That's too big. Talking about trust, it's too disconnected. How do I know what these people in parliament or wherever they meet will decide for me? I have no idea. I can't talk to them. Maybe I can send them an email they're not going to read. But if it's about my community and the people I meet, maybe on the market even, on the street, on the bus, or I don't know, some kind of physical encounter, makes it more direct and makes it also more accountable, and thereby this self-efficacy compared to the helplessness that we often have on the state level when it's too far away and we don't know how to trust, becomes more valuable. That doesn't mean the state level is unimportant. Of course, it plays a role if certain countries then say, or also communities of countries like the EU say, look, we connect and we make certain decisions together in order to be big enough to face also dangers and threats to democracy or our value system together. Of course that is important.
So trust starts with 1, then 2, then 4, then 8, then 20, then 100, and scales from there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for our viewers who have followed along and agreed with the logic and heart of your argument of positive and constructive journalism? What advice do you have for individuals and their awareness after this podcast?
It's a 3-step way. It's always 3 steps because we often forget the middle and we remember the first and the last thing. Our brain is kind of programmed for that. So if we only have 3, there's only 1 middle. So the first step is start with yourself. Ask yourself honestly, like you described so beautifully about yourself, what is important for me? Like when I tried to outline that story, what works for me? And not what other people expect of me or what some people try to tell me I should be or should do or should have been doing or being, but what is it that really, really resonates with me? And that's a painful journey. It's not easy. And it never ends, as far as I know. The second step is talk to other people, like we are just doing now. Talk to other people whom you trust, whom you want to trust, who are worth your trust. And make your voice heard in, the, let's say, communities where you feel at least half safe. Because it will resonate with you. And often, I try to explain a bit like this picture with a bus, right? Be the bus driver who picks up the people who have been all waiting for their bus. And you say, hey, come on, hop off. It's going to be a joyful ride. And find that smallest common denominator with the people who are all waiting and kind of searching for somebody or something, or maybe just you and that bus to come along because they've been lost. And then the third thing is find really in your professional and private life not only the bus and the drive, but structures or build them that can support you. Like you mentioned your co-pilots. Don't look for the people who can hurt you. I mean, watch out for them. That's important to stay alive, of course. But really focus on what am I for and not what am I against. That changes the whole narrative. Because suddenly
that's constructive and positive living, exactly. Not journalism.
Exactly. It's not only journalism, but it's also journalism.
Yeah. No, they apply the same concepts of constructive journalism to your own life writ large. I love that.
Yeah.
So I originally came across your name from people, my friends in Berlin, that you care very much about climate and the natural world. So you're aware of the polycrisis and all the things. So taking off your neuroscience and journalism hat for the moment, do you have any personal advice to the listeners of this podcast who are alive during this time?
Yeah. Stop ruminating about whether you drink the soy or the oat milk. I'm serious. Because that's, I mean, it's also fun, sure. I love those discussions sometimes, and when I'm in a good mood. But seriously, don't waste your time on it. Again, your attention is your most valuable resource. So when people ask me, what's the most useful thing I can do? Is it like buying a bike? Is it like stop eating meat? Is it like this? The most important thing you can do is talk about it. Talk about planetary boundaries. Talk about that we have to do everything, almost everything different in order to keep our beautiful life support system called the Earth as our life support system. Educate yourself about it and talk to other people, and you will realize it's so much fun. It's so much fun because it is a beautiful planet, and it gives me a goose skin when I now go outside and see how spring is starting and how I can smell and feel and touch it. Do that. Feel it, touch it, talk to other people about it, go outside and talk about it.
Thank you for that. It's about to be spring here today, but we had snow this morning, but there's still the spring bird sounds. You're a professor, you have students, how do you, and also a neuroscientist, what advice do you have for young humans in their late teens or 20s being alive at this time?
It's such a pleasure, and also I'm feeling very honored to be able to talk and work with all these youngish, they're in their mid-20s, they're master students, people, because it always makes me realize how much, and of course this is kind of a selected crowd, right, because they want to study sustainable transformation. I'm now in charge of this master's degree, started in last September. That's called Sustainable Transformation or Design of Sustainable Transformation, and they're of course already very interested in all those topics, but still to make me realize how much they are searching, how much they are waiting for this bus, how much they actually want to do some good and are looking so almost desperately for the right answers. I love these moments when they go like, now I don't know what's to be right or wrong, because that's this moment of irritation. That's this self-awareness. That's what we talked about earlier when I said we need time for that. We need rest for that. We need sleep in between. The really basic human needs. We need to talk about it to other people. We need to make it resonate with other people. The first thing I tell them methodologically is, fun fact now to say this on a podcast where we've been talking all the time, is to actively listen. Active listening is by now also a research area. It's a skill you can learn, but we are no longer taught, or most of the times we are not taught to really, really listen, because we are programmed to have the better argument and not to understand the other person, again talking about incentives, but to be louder than the other person.
Can journalism help with active listening?
Yes.
How?
Invent new formats, talk in different ways, use the constructive language or the, let's say, constructive skill set by asking different questions. This is where it also is. It goes through the whole journalistic process. Asking different questions, really doing your research, really talking to different people, really searching for people who are already working on solutions, creating formats that engage with people, all these kind of things. We know how to get the brain hooked, not only by the negativity, but also with other forms of engagement.
Can you either right now list some or off camera give me a list that I can share with the viewers of examples of media that exists today that is operating on these things?
Certainly, I can send you a list. That's fine, and then you can put it in the show notes.
A few more questions, Maren. What do you care most about in the world?
That's maybe the most difficult question at all. What do I care most about? Okay, I'm going to make it abstract, of course. I mean, I'm going to give you a concrete answer and an abstract one, okay? Is 2 fine?
That's fine.
Okay. I care most about that people love each other, and love in the most basic understanding, meaning I want to understand you. What I care most about on a basic life support system is chocolate.
And as a neuroscientist, there's probably a Venn diagram overlap between those two.
I hope so. I'm still searching for that one.
If you had a magic wand and could do one thing that would change human and planetary futures for the better with no risk to your reputation or status or anything, what is one thing you would change?
I would give every human being on this planet an experience, it's more like a magic wish, where they feel connected. Because I think that's the most valuable experience, connected to not only other people, but this connectivity that I call radical connectivity, to understand I depend on clean air, I depend on the fact that it rains, I depend on food, I depend on other people, that kind of connectivity. Because I think that would really change our conversation.
Professor Maren Erner, it's been a joy to connect with you in real time. Thank you for your work and thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed or learned from this episode of The Great Simplification, please follow us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also visit thegreatsimplification.com for references and show notes from today's conversation. And to connect with fellow listeners of this podcast, check out our Discord channel. This show is hosted by me, Nate Hagens, edited by No Troublemakers Media, and produced by Misty Stinnett, Leslie Batlutz, Brady Hyen, and Lizzie Sirianni.
How are we going to do that? This is clearly the one that I need to replace, and I think I got the right one. It looks like the right size, but I don't know how to get this apart. Maybe with force? I mean, that's what I've been trying. You can see it's hardly turning. It's really stiff. Not like this one. This is open, this is open, this is all good. It's just that one. But how do I get to it, you know? It's like there's no... Oh! Let's see if I can find something online.